Welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be putting on our value investor hats
Oh, nice.
and taking a look at Applied Materials Q3 2024 financials.
Sounds good.
You gave us some really interesting sources on this,
Yeah.
and we're really excited to kind of dig in and see what we can find.
I think this will be a good one.
Yeah. So before we even get into like the nitty gritty numbers,
Yeah.
I think it's important to lay some groundwork here.
Sure.
And establish who Applied Materials is and what they do, and then we can move into, what makes a company attractive to a value investor.
Yeah.
So for people out there who maybe haven't heard of them, what is Applied Materials all about?
Well, they're the largest maker of equipment to make semiconductors in the U.S.
Okay.
So that means they make the machines that make the chips that are in all our electronics.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they're behind the scenes players, but really essential
Very important. Yeah.
to the tech that we use every single day.
Wow.
Okay. So let's talk about value investors then. What are they looking for when they're, considering a company like Applied Materials?
Well, it's not like growth investing or anything, where you're looking for something to double quickly.
Right.
Value investors are looking for the long term. They
Okay.
want to invest in a company for a long time.
Okay.
So they're looking at the intrinsic worth of a company, not the hype surrounding it.
So it's not just about the flash and the sizzle. It's about the substance behind it.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. So they're going to look at the financial health, future earning potential,
Okay.
and the market position of the company.
That makes sense. So they're really taking a holistic view of the company, not just like a snapshot in time.
Exactly. They want to know, is the stock price an accurate reflection of the company's true value?
Okay. I like that. It's kind of like buying a house.
Sure.
You're not just looking at the paint job or the landscaping. You're looking at the foundation.
Right. You want to see the plumbing,
Yeah.
the electric.
Yeah. You want to know if the roof is going to cave in a year.
Right.
You're looking at everything.
You want the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You want it all.
You want the whole picture.
The whole thing.
Okay. So I get that. Now, are there specific things that a value investor is looking at?
There are metrics that help them.
Okay.
One is the price to earnings ratio.
Oh, the PE ratio. I've heard of that.
Yes.
I don't really know what it is, though.
Well, you can think of it as a gauge of how the market expects the company to grow in the future.
Oh, okay. So a high PE ratio means people are really optimistic.
Yeah, they think the company's going to grow quickly and the earnings will increase.
Oh, but could a really high PE ratio also mean that the stock is overvalued?
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Okay.
It could mean the price is inflated compared to how much the company's actually making.
I see.
Value investors want to find a company with a good track record, but one that maybe the market is overlooking a little bit.
Oh, so it's almost like they're looking for hidden gems.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
And they want a good price.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What about the price to book ratio?
The PB ratio.
Yeah, okay. I've heard that one too.
So that compares the company's market cap to its book value.
Book value.
Yeah. So imagine if a company sold all of its assets.
Yeah.
And then paid off all of its debts, whatever is left over is the book value.
Okay.
So a PB ratio that's under 1 would suggest the market values the company at less than all of its assets.
Oh, so that's when it's a potential bargain for value investors.
That's right.
Oh, okay. So they're really doing their homework.
Yeah, they're like detectives looking for clues to a company's real worth.
Okay.
And they're also looking at the dividend history of a company.
Oh, dividends? Those are good.
Dividends are payments that companies make to shareholders.
Right, right.
So if a company has a solid history of paying dividends, and it's even buying back some of its own stock,
Okay.
that is usually a good signal for value investors.
Because it shows that they're confident in their future earnings.
That-
Okay. So now that we have a better understanding of, what a value investor looks for.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at Applied Materials Q3 2024 financials and see what we can glean from them.
Sounds good.
So, what was their reported net sales?
$6.78 billion.
$6.778 billion.
Billion dollars.
Okay. That's a big number.
It is, but we have to remember to put it into context.
Right.
What were their sales like in previous quarters?
Right.
And this time last year?
That's a good point because we need to see the trend.
Yeah. Are they growing? Are they declining?
Or are they just flat?
Right. We need more information.
Okay. So let's dig a little deeper then.
Right. Exactly. We need to see what's driving those sales.
Mhm.
Are they profitable? How are they managing their resources?
But where do we even begin with all of that?
Well, let's look at the net income.
Okay.
For Q3 2024, it was $1.705 billion.
Okay, so again, a big number, but how do we know if that's good or bad?
Right. We need to see how that compares to other quarters. Is it going up? Is it going down?
So we're looking for trends again.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. So we've looked at net sales and net income.
Yeah.
What about earnings per share?
Yeah, EPS. That's a really important metric for investors because it shows how much profit each share of stock represents.
Okay, so basically, the higher the EPS, the more profitable the company is.
Right. And Applied Materials reported diluted EPS of $2.05 for Q3.
Okay, so another number to keep in mind and compare to previous quarters and industry averages.
Exactly.
What else are we looking for?
Well, a value investor also wants to see how strong the company is financially.
Uh-huh.
Like, can they handle tough times?
Okay, so like, are they prepared if there's a sudden downturn in the economy?
Right. So we look at things like cash flow and cash reserves.
Kind of like a financial safety.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Applied Materials had $8 billion in cash and cash equivalents at the end of Q3.
Wow. Okay, so they're sitting on a pretty big pile of cash.
Yeah, it seems like they're in a good spot financially.
Okay, so based on what we've seen so far, are there any like red flags that a value investor would be worried about?
Not really. I mean, at a glance, the numbers look pretty good.
Okay.
But a good value investor wouldn't stop there.
Right. They'd want to look beyond just the numbers.
Yeah, they'd want to dig into the company's operations and see what their competition is like. Are there any potential risks down the line?
That makes sense. Okay, so before we get into the potential challenges, let's talk about what a value investor really likes about Applied Materials. What are the positives?
Okay, so first of all, they're in a really important industry. They're not just profitable, they're a major player in the semiconductor equipment market.
Right, and that market is only growing.
Exactly. Everybody needs chips.
So it's like they're selling shovels during a gold rush.
Perfect analogy. And remember, we talked about their big installed base of systems?
Yeah.
That means they have a steady stream of revenue coming in from service contracts and spare parts and upgrades.
Oh, right, because once a company buys their equipment, they're going to need to maintain it.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
They invest a lot in research and development.
So they're not just resting on their laurels, they're trying to stay ahead of the game.
Right, they're constantly innovating.
Okay.
And they also focus on training their employees.
Which is important, because it shows that they're invested in their workforce.
Exactly. And it helps them stay competitive.
What about their manufacturing processes?
They're always looking for ways to be more efficient and reduce costs.
Okay, so they're not just trying to make money. They're trying to make money efficiently.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we talked about this earlier, but their history of paying dividends and buying back stock is a big plus.
Yeah, it shows that they care about their shareholders and that they're confident in their future.
Right. Okay. So those are all good signs. But what about the risks?
Well, in any industry, especially one that's driven by technology competition, is a big risk.
Yeah, because there's always somebody trying to come up with the next big thing.
Exactly. And even though Applied Materials is a leader right now, they can't afford to get complacent.
So they always have to be innovating and looking ahead to the future.
Exactly.
What else?
Well, they depend on a few big customers for a lot of their revenue.
I see. So if one of those big customers decides to go with a different supplier,
that could really hurt Applied Materials.
So it's a bit of a risky situation.
Yeah.
Okay, what other risks are there?
Well, they have complex global supply chains.
Right, and we've seen how fragile those can be.
Yeah, anything from a pandemic to a natural disaster could disrupt their supply chain.
And that could affect their profits.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then there's the global economy.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
If there's a recession or high inflation, that could impact demand for electronics.
Which could hurt Applied Materials.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got competition, supply chain issues, and the global economy. Anything else?
Regulations.
Oh, right, because they're dealing with a lot of technology.
Yeah, things like export controls and environmental regulations can impact their operations.
So it's a complicated situation.
Yeah, but a value investor would look at all of this, the risks and the rewards.
And they'd make a decision based on that.
Right.
Okay, so let's recap what we've learned about Applied Materials through this value investor lens.
Well, they have good financials, revenue, net income, EPS. They're a leader in their industry, and they have a lot of cash on hand. They're focused on innovation and their employees.
So they're doing a lot of things right.
But they also have some challenges like competition reliance on a few big customers and the uncertainty of the global economy.
So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah. But that's what makes investing so interesting. It's
Right.
not just about the numbers, it's about understanding the whole picture.
Right. And there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about these big global trends and the rise of AI and these shifts in global manufacturing. Like, how do those factor into a value investor's, thinking about applied materials?
It's a really good question. I mean, these trends could mean huge growth for the company, right? I mean, increased demand for chips, new markets opening up. It's a lot of potential upside.
But like we've been saying, there are always risks.
Of course.
So a smart investor would be looking at how applied materials is trying to take advantage of these trends while also, being aware of those risks.
Exactly. Like, how are they making sure they can still make money even if things change?
Right. What kind of questions would a value investor be asking?
Well, for AI, they'd want to know, how is Applied Materials investing in R&D to make sure they can stay on top of things? Are they making partnerships with other companies in the AI world?
So they need to not just be good at what they do now, but also be ready for what's coming next.
Right. And when it comes to these shifts in where chips are made, a value investor would want to see how Applied Materials is adjusting.
Okay.
Because different places have different rules and different ways of doing business.
So are they able to adapt?
Yeah. Can they build relationships with new customers in these new markets? Are they changing their supply chains to make this all work?
It sounds like they need to be pretty flexible.
They do. And remember, a value investor is thinking long term.
So they're not just looking at the next few months.
Right. They want to know if Applied Materials can be successful for years to come.
Okay, so it sounds like we've learned a lot about applied materials today.
Yeah, we started with looking at what a value investor wants to see in a company. Then we dug into the company's financials. And finally, we talked about these big global trends that could impact their future.
It's been a really interesting deep dive.
I agree. And hopefully our listener has a better understanding of the company and the industry now.
And maybe they'll even do some more research on their own.
That's always a good thing.
And of course, we have to remind everyone that we're not financial advisors and this isn't financial advice.
Right. Always do your own research and talk to a professional before you invest.
Exactly. All right, well, that wraps up our deep dive into applied materials.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.